Please lock me away and don't allow the day here inside where I hide with my loneliness.
Hello, I'm Steve Weber, the host of Beatles Rewind. As always, I'm joined by my co-host and fellow Beatlemaniac, Cassandra. Good morning, Cass.
Good morning, everyone. What a glorious day for a little musical archaeology.
Cass, let's talk about some of the Beatles songs that the band never recorded.
You're right. They gave away a lot of good songs to other artists, didn't they?
They really did. And for you, the listener, this is such a fascinating topic because it's a shortcut, really, to understanding the immense creative pressure the Beatles put on their own catalog.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be exploring this idea of their cast-offs, songs they wrote but then just handed over.
And what those songs tell us about the standards they set for themselves is just, it's incredible.
It really is.
It's a study in abundance, really. We're looking at, the core years of their output, roughly 1963 through 66.
Right.
And if you think about the speed of evolution back then, it's just mind-boggling. In those 4 years, they put out 6 UK albums.
6 albums that basically redefine pop music.
Exactly. Plus all those standalone singles that, for any other band would have been career highlights.
The productivity of Lennon and McCartney in that period, it was almost like a geological event.
That's a great way to put it. They just had this problem of having too much good material, so they had to start asking which great songs didn't quite fit the band's narrative anymore.
A narrative that was changing month by month.
That's the crucial point. A song written in 63 was great, but by 1965, if it still sounded like 63, it was a reject.
They were just accelerating too fast, and their own back catalog of potential hits just started piling up.
And that's where, the business side of things comes in with Brian Epstein.
Exactly. Epstein managed so many other acts.
Yeah.
Jerry and the Pacemakers, Cilla Black, Billy J. Kramer.
And they were all desperate for a hit.
Perpetually desperate. And here are the Beatles in this really unique position to just supply them with chart toppers without even touching their own output.
And this wasn't just some, corporate strategy. Sometimes the songs were genuinely older things, remnants from the Quarrymen days or Hamburg.
They just dug up and polished off.
Right. And other times they were brand new songs written almost instantly, just as a favor.
Please lock me away and don't allow the day here inside where I hide with my loneliness. I don't care what they say, I won't stay in a world without love. Birds sing out of tune and rain clouds hide the moon. I'm okay, here I'll stay with my loneliness.
It really speaks to a kind of a ruthless internal quality control, doesn't it? The songs had to do something. They had to push a boundary or define a new sound if a song was just, conventionally perfect.
And catchy, and a guaranteed hit.
Sometimes that was the very reason they didn't use it. It was too safe.
The key insight here, I think, is that when you look at these songs that became career-defining chart toppers for other artists, it just shows you exactly how high the Beatles set their own bar.
They weren't just aiming for number one. They were aiming for revolution. Anything less was expendable.
So where should we start? I think there's one obvious example.
Let's unpack the biggest and maybe the most iconic one.
Yeah.
The song World Without Love.
This is the definitive giveaway story. It was recorded by Peter and Gordon in 1964, and it just became this international sensation.
It holds the record, doesn't it? The most successful Beatles cast-off.
It does. Hit number 1 in the US, the UK, all over the place.
What's truly wild about this one to me is the age of the composer. Paul McCartney wrote this song when he was just 16 years old.
I know. Imagine that level of melody and structure already there in a teenager.
It's just innate.
It is. It shows his genius for pop symmetry. I mean, you listen to World Without Love, it has that classic McCartney sweetness, a genuinely memorable melody, and the structure is, it's bulletproof.
It would have fit perfectly on a Hard Day's Night or with the Beatles, no question.
Absolutely. But Paul didn't want it, and the context of the handoff is also pretty revealing.
Right, he was dating Jane Asher.
And Peter Asher was her brother. Paul was actually living in the Asher family house when he finished writing it, so it was the ultimate favor.
He just walked downstairs.
Pretty much. He sat down at the piano, probably in their music room, and played them a track he considered, not quite right for the biggest band on earth.
And they walked away with a career.
They did. But here's where the Lennon element comes in, and it gives you that crucial insight into their dynamic.
Yes.
You have this beautiful, if conventional song. But John's reaction to that opening line, "Please, lock me away."
Mm-hmm. The story is that John just cracked up laughing when he heard it. And that's everything, isn't it?
It is.
It wasn't that it was a bad song, but that line, it probably struck John as way too sentimental or, too melodramatic for where the Beatles were heading.
Even in 1964, it was too soft.
It was an instant verdict.
Yeah.
Paul's strength was that melody, that sentimentality. But John was the acid filter. He demanded a bit more edge.
If it couldn't pass John's laugh test, it was out the door.
Yeah.
Straight to Peter and Gordon.
And that dynamic, that push and pull, is what made them more than just a great pop band. They policed each other's work with a kind of brutal honesty. Okay, let's pivot to another example. One that shows that lightning-fast composition process we mentioned. Bad to Me.
Yes. A #1 UK hit for Billy J. Kramer in 1963.
And this one is pure John Lennon.
Oh, absolutely. Pure, unadulterated Lennon, circa 63. It's got that rhythm, the sort of melancholy minor key thing he did.
And that ascending melody in the chorus?
Yes, that distinctive melodic structure. It's quintessentially early Beatles. It sounds like it belongs on the same album as Twist and Shout.
It went straight to #1. But what's so fascinating is the sheer casualness of how it was created.
It really is. John wrote this quickly while he was on vacation in Spain.
With Brian Epstein, of all people.
That trip was supposed to be for relaxation, and here he is, just knocking out a guaranteed #1 hit in his downtime.
It's like his doodles were chart-topping masterpieces.
And it wasn't just a scribble either. The Beatles actually recorded a full studio demo of Bad to Me, so they did consider it, at least for a minute.
So they liked it enough to lay down the tracks.
They did, but likely with the intention of giving it to Billy J. Kramer and the Dakotas all along. They were another Epstein act, and they needed material urgently.
Right.
So the implication is John could write a perfect chart hit in the time it takes to pack a suitcase, but they chose to elevate their own material above it.
They were prioritizing songs like She Loves You or I Want to Hold Your Hand.
Because those felt like bigger, more defining statements for the Beatles themselves.
It's amazing. If Bad to Me was on with the Beatles, it would be remembered today as a classic.
For sure. But instead it became a defining track for someone else just because they had so many other classics to pick from. It wasn't a choice between good and bad. It was a choice between extraordinary and, well, revolutionary.
Speaking of revolutionary, let's move to the third example. That means a lot. This one maybe best shows their perfectionism because they actually tried to record it during one of their most pressured periods, no less.
That Means a Lot was recorded by P.J. Proby in 1965. But its real story is with the Beatles version, or I should say, their lack of a version.
It was a Paul composition, right?
Yes. And when you listen to the structure, it has what you might call mid-period Beatles sophistication.
Okay, so what does that sound like? How do we hear the difference between, say, World Without Love and this?
Well, if World Without Love is a simple, direct 64 ballad, That Means a Lot is a 65 album track that's sort of pushing toward the complexity of Something on Rubber Soul.
I see.
Paul uses more interesting melodic turns, and the lyrical themes are a bit deeper than just teen romance. He's starting to use those gospel-tinged harmonies and soul inflections they were exploring. It's just richer, more mature.
And this is happening during the Help sessions. They were under the gun to record an album that was also a movie soundtrack. They needed songs.
They absolutely needed songs, and they spent significant precious studio time trying to nail this one. They did multiple takes, trying different rhythms, different vocals.
Trying to capture that soulful sound Paul was going for.
But they couldn't get it. They just abandoned the session completely, declared themselves dissatisfied with every single take.
And that decision is it's so revealing.
It is. To scrap a song they'd invested time in, a sophisticated song, during a period of high demand, that shows their quality control had moved beyond just liking a tune.
It was about the feel, the performance.
Oh, exactly. If they couldn't execute it in a way that felt defining or current, they just refused to put the Beatles' name on it.
And the brilliant thing about the anthology releases is that we, as listeners, can actually hear the evidence. You can listen to the abandoned takes.
Yeah.
And what's striking isn't that the song is bad, it's excellent, but the arrangement feels a bit tentative. The vocals are maybe a little forced.
It just lacks the swagger and conviction of their finished work. They knew a Beatles record had to have authority. They couldn't afford a track that sounded like a band trying to figure out a song in the studio.
So they realized, this is a great song, but we're not delivering a great Beatles performance of it.
Right, and rather than release something subpar, they just handed it off to PJ Proby.
So let's synthesize these 3 examples, because together they really paint a complete picture of that creative pressure cooker.
Okay, so we covered 3 distinct categories of what you could call rejected genius. First, you have Paul's teenage gem, World Without Love.
A genuinely great track that becomes a massive global hit.
Simply because it was too conventional for their 1964 sound. Then you have John's instant, high-quality vacation song, Bad to Me.
Proving they could conjure up UK #1s without even trying, but they need to focus elsewhere.
And finally, the ultimate example of their artistic purity. That means a lot. A complex song they actually spent hours on.
Only to scrap it, purely because the execution didn't meet their own impossible standard.
This is why their discography is so revered. This whole process guaranteed that every single song that made it onto a Beatles album represented an evolutionary step. They were relentlessly defining a new sound every few months.
They weren't just making music.
No, they were establishing the history of music as it happened.
And that's the real relevance for you, the listener. When you go back and listen to albums like Help or A Hard Day's Night, you need to remember that the songs that made the cut were the absolute pinnacle of an already overflowing genius.
It really reframes how you appreciate the hits they kept. They could have filled their albums with 10 guaranteed hits apiece, but they chose only the revolutionary ones.
So here's a final thought to mull over. Did the act of giving away these conventional guaranteed hits actually free the Beatles up creatively? Did it compel them to constantly push into that new territory that led to Revolver and Sgt. Pepper? Think about how these cast-offs defined the sound they were so determined to leave behind. Well, thanks for joining us today. Whenever you feel like knowing more about the Beatles, visit us at BeatlesRewind.com. Every day we do something new there. Song reviews, album reviews, movie reviews, documentaries, trivia, all things Beatles. Every day, 8 days a week. You can find us on the website, BeatlesRewind.com. You can subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Amazon Podcasts, practically anywhere on the inner tubes. The Beatles, all day, every day. Cass will do it again tomorrow, right?
Absolutely. Farewell for now.
Until next time, when you listen.
Your mind conducts its own symphony.